All right, so I've got a very special guest, Dominic McGregor, on the show today. Dominic, thank you so much for being with us.
No problem.
So you are very young. You're only 26 years old. You're the co-founder and current CEO of the COO of the Social Chain, which is a social media marketing company. Could you just, to start off, give a brief history of how your company started and your role in it?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, thank you for having me on today. I feel it's great to come here and be able to tell my story. As you said, yeah, I'm actually got a little bit of a white lie. I turned 27 last week,
Oh,
so I'm 27 now.
happy
I was
birthday.
I was thinking, do I get away with it? Is it kind of like, could I say this was before my birthday? It was recorded, so unfortunately, I'm just going to say I'm 27 now. Um, I know it's starting to feel old a little bit.
Happy birthday.
Um, Thank you, thank you. So Social Chain, we started the business about 5 years ago now, and we it was born from us running large social media accounts. So the kind of ones you follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And 5 years ago, what we kind of realized was there was an opportunity not just to kind of be a publisher and a media owner, but the kind of long-term opportunity was to help brands navigate social media. When we first started, there was some of the biggest brands in the world didn't have social media channels, which is crazy to think. Like 5 years ago, brands weren't using social media, but that was the kind of landscape that we were in. People were trying to understand what it was, how they could use it, and by that time, there'd been massive businesses which had been grown so entirely from social media. So the world was slowly adapting to it, and we saw our opportunity being able to help brands navigate the platforms, the nuances, the audiences that will come in with social media. So we gave birth to an agency, and ultimately our mantra now is to keep brands at the forefront of what's possible. So if it's possible on social, we will work with our clients to try and do it. If it's not possible, we'll find a way to do it. And we work with some of the world's biggest clients. We work with Uber, Twitch, Coca-Cola, some of our clients, Amazon Prime. So we've got a great roster. We're in the UK, Germany, and the USA. Office based in New York, Manchester, and Berlin. 250 people, and yeah, I think the best thing I can say about the business is I wake up every single day and do something I love with people I love, and I have fun doing it. And that was ultimately when we set out above everything was the priority. And as a business, we kind of champion that aspect of happiness and the aspect of being a company fit for the modern age, rather than being a company which is built to maximize profits and shareholder happiness.
Gotcha. So you're going back to a few years ago. You're a young guy, right? You actually left university to start this business. Again, you're one of the co-founders. You
Yeah.
guys are, all young 20 somethings. You're experiencing a lot of success, growing really fast. What were your drinking habits like at that during the early stages of the social chain?
Yeah, like you said, we were young, 20-something-year-olds. So I would have been, when we first started the business, I'd have been 21. The average age was 22. There was a bunch of us who were, reality, having good success. We were getting written about in the national media. We were on TV. People were starting to know our names. And obviously we were, making good revenue and got investment. So we kind of bonded as a team by Fridays having celebrations, having nights out, as not any other 21-year-olds would do. That was the kind of normality to do. So it was celebrating. A lot of it was celebrating. We had a lot of things to celebrate. We'd celebrate winning clients. We'd celebrate new people joining the team. We'd celebrate everything as much as you can imagine, and it was fun. It was really, really fun. And at that point, there was no drinking problem. There was no drinking problem in the very early days. It was really a great period of life where we were just enjoying the start of this journey, and it was a really happy time.
Yeah. So at what point did you kind of realize that you were starting to develop a problem? At what point were you kind of like, okay, there's something going on here I need to address?
Yeah, so that kind of honeymoon period as the business kind of wore off, where we started to realize the reality. And when we were 10 people, it was just a lot of fun. All of us were friends. We were getting on. It felt like a really good size business. And then we obviously wanted to continue the growth. I think the ambition we have was huge. And what we've started to realize was some of the kind of issues that came with scaling an agency business, clients not paying, cash flow problems. It's a notoriously difficult industry to navigate. And we weren't immune to that. We were probably, if anything, naive to things. So we were probably more susceptible to it. When a client says they're going to pay on this day, we expected them to pay. We didn't know it was normal for them not to pay on that day. That was just something which we kind of didn't even understand. So when the business started to scale and there became more accountability and responsibility to the people and their livelihoods, people started getting cars, people looking at houses. I started to think that, God, this is something now. This is becoming more than us having fun. This is now, we've now got big problems to solve and people's livelihoods to keep at stake. And that's kind of, that transition from dropping out of university where life was fun to being at Social Chain and starting in the early days where it was fun and there wasn't really any problems, to suddenly, and it felt very much suddenly like a huge smack in the face that we now had to grow up and run this business.
Yeah.
We didn't feel like, and that's kind of when things started, because ultimately the celebration still continued. We still had plenty of things to celebrate. And, obviously as kind of leaders in the business, we shield people from the kind of realities. We had to continue to carry on. And there became this moment where I realized that in the celebrations that I wasn't celebrating, I was kind of commiserating almost. And I was using the kind of front of the Friday nights and the drinking in the office as an excuse for me to kind of medicate. So it was probably 18 months into the business where I was slowly starting to see myself turning to the alcohol on the weekends as a escape mechanism rather than a enhancer.
Right. Gotcha. So at some point I watched you did a TED talk about a year ago, I believe. And it was really interesting. You tell like your whole story. I'm going to leave a link to that for my listeners on this episode. It's really interesting. But during that TED talk, you kind of described a period at some point during the time you're describing when things were really taking off, when you decided that you needed to get some help. And so you went to therapy and you decided there that you're going to take a 3-month-long break from drinking, right? Mm-hmm. But after that 3-month period in which you obviously were like doing really well, you were thinking of going back, well, for I guess it was Christmas was coming up and you said like on Christmas, I'm going to have a drink, right?
Yeah.
I guess around that time, however, you decided I'm done.
Yeah.
Right? So what was going on in your mind when you were making that decision? Why did you realize, I don't know if you like had a drink in your hand at that point, but why did you realize like, no, I'm not going to go back. The alcohol free is right for me.
Yeah. I think, at the time I'm 22 years old and I make the decision to stop drinking for a period of time. At that point, there was no thought in my mind that I wouldn't drink again because I was so young and it was, it's part of your entire life. So it never came as a point to me that I would not drink again. So I guess the question is then what happened over them 3 months, which made me change my opinion from that to, all right, let's keep on going. And I think the main thing is the impact it had in such a short space of time. I went from being someone who was ruining a lot of things in my life. So friendships were kind of being ruined, relationships were being ruined, and I kind of saw that as a clear indicator that if I continue drinking, things aren't going to be good for me. So over that kind of 3-month period, things got good. I started to get pretty serious with my girlfriend at the time, who was great helping me. My friendships were coming back. I was having more energy to go and do things I enjoyed. And I got to the point of 3 months and I always had in my mind this picture of, let's celebrate, go back to the kind of reason I used alcohol was to celebrate. And I was thinking, that's what alcohol was. It was a great excuse to enjoy and celebrate and do the great things we had. And then for some reason, I started to think about that point a little bit more and talk to my therapist about it. And he just said something which was kind of just stuck with me. And he said, if you hadn't smoke cigarettes for 6 months, you're not going to then smoke a cigarette to celebrate. And I was
Right.
like, of course you're not. So why celebrate with the thing that caused the problem in the first instance? So it was kind of on that statement where my whole perception started to change around like if I reintroduce alcohol into my life or whether I continue down the road of sobriety. And it was always like, what's the reason to? What is the single reason why I should do it? And, I did when I was younger, I studied science a lot. And obviously the theory of hypotheses is that you've got to disprove it. And I'm in that mindset now of like, if someone can disprove to me the reason why I should drink, I will drink. So if someone said to me, okay, drink this bottle of red wine or you're going to die, and it was actually that black and white, I would drink. But I've not found the reason, or I've not found the rationale anyone can give me across any reason why I should drink. So until I've got that I'm done.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not going to try to try to prove that to you today. No, and I totally agree. And yeah, no, yeah, but I think that's that when I was watching your TED talk, I was really fascinated at that point because I mean, I think most people in that situation would at least like try moderation, right? Because the vast majority of people that I've spoken to have, they tried to do it maybe for like a month or two. They went back to their old habits and then they finally realized I'm done. But you just decided in that moment, done forever. Yeah. So like so now you're 3 years sober. Am I
Yeah,
on the right track
coming
there?
up to 4, so it'll be 4 in July.
Yeah. So congratulations on that. First of all, that's incredible. What are some of the ways in which sobriety has made your life better?
God, I guess it's funny how these things can be broken down into phases, and the phases do actually fall kind of within a year period. So if I look at the first year of my sobriety, it was really the foundation year where I was starting to get much more better understanding of myself. So it really helped me analyze who I was and who I wanted to be. And I did a lot of kind of work on my own personal values and what, as an individual, I want to be known for and how I want people to feel when they meet me. And that kind of work and that kind of internal analysis was very much year one. Year two was taking that and starting to apply it. So I reconnected with a lot of friends. I kind of got much more confident in myself to be able to go out, speak to people. I enhanced my own relationships with my friends, family, girlfriend, and I continued to kind of discover things I was enjoying. So that was the kind of year two. And then year three, after that, was where I kind of had everything I needed, where I'd got strong relationships with people. My mental health was in a fantastic place. I'd put in a really like hard work ground period to kind of make myself a person who kind of, not a person of kind of merit, but someone who people kind of look to as like as someone who, it's possible, but also with a lot of respect, which was kind of a long process because, during a period of drinking, you lose a lot of respect from people because they see you at your worst. So I had a lot of kind of stigmas to overcome with people, which by the end of year two kind of happened. So year three, we were kind of when I did my TED talk, and was very much a year of being able to reflect. And there was a quote which said, when you get in a position where you've ultimately helped yourself, it's your turn to help other people. So year three was kind of looking out and being able to give much more of a voice to what I was doing, being able to help people. I had the mental capacity to help other people on their own journeys. Because in year one or two, you're still focusing on yourself. So if people come to you with their kind of problems, it does overwhelm you. So year three was that kind of ability to go out and openly talk to people, which I'm kind of in now. So year four, always, my sobriety anniversary always comes around and I always think, where do I go from here? And again, it's just taking the kind of things that I've done in the last couple of years and accelerating them. I've got more self-confidence than ever. I'm happier than ever. My life is in a great situation. So I want to look at more I can do to enhance all parts of my life. So if anything, it is that it gives you the innate self-confidence and self-belief that if you can overcome something which was so destructive in your life, that when you apply yourself to other things, you can do them. Because when you look at me, if you took me at my worst, that person, that individual, there is no way you'd think that person could stop drinking. No way. And to be able to look back at you as yourself and say, I did it, I've done it. Next time you come with a challenge that you're faced with, it's like, okay, how do we do this then? We've been over everything, we've done everything before. Let's just get on and do it.
Yeah. You're in the business world, right? You're a young guy. You're in a very competitive industry. You're in a high up position. So a lot of the people I have spoken to have expressed to me that that's one of the things that's holding them back from going sober is its effect on like your professional life. Because you go out with clients, there's a lot of pressure to drink. Have you experienced any like brushback, any peer pressure from clients, from colleagues? And if so, like how have you dealt with that over the years?
It is something you experience when you're in situations and you meet someone new. So, I do a lot of networking. I go to a lot of football games. And obviously in them situations, it's very much centered around alcohol, award ceremonies, anything like that. And for me, it's very simple. And I've only realized over the last couple of years that I'm quite fortunate to be able to do this. But I'm very upfront about it. I don't drink, and this is why I don't drink. And straight away, that actually gets much more respect than, oh, give me a pint, give me 2 Jaeger bombs, whatever. Because you then start to speak to someone on a different level. People straight away, you then take them to a place where, okay, this person straight away has opened up to me and became very comfortable with who I am. I can speak to this person on a personal level, rather than it kind of being, when you feel like you're drinking, it always feels superficial. This is, again, my opinion, because it's a little bit lad-like culture, a little bit, with guys. It's a little bit, we're just drinking here. So you never really get a quality of connection. So although that networking and going out and meeting people and socializing does depend on volume, and if you are out and about and seeing more, you will probably get more connections. But I would say what the biggest difference is that my connections have got deeper. So, for example, a lot of senior people I'll speak to, they know I don't drink, they'll go out for a meal, they make jokes about it. And ultimately, they always remember me because there's a point of difference. I'm not just a ship in the night who comes by and they meet and, oh, what was that person? We have quality conversation. We talk about more meaningful things, and again, in turn, that builds better relationships. Unfortunately, I'm not someone who's experienced that inside a company because I'm founder, so I kind of have that within a business. So I do appreciate that in certain situations that being involved in conversations in the business could help, but I'm not experienced that. But I can't see how, again, not drinking would not benefit you, because you can still go to the pub and have a water. It doesn't matter. Maybe if you are in the early days of trying to stop drinking, that will be a difficult piece. But I think, again, communication, openness and honestness always gets you through these things, and people do respect that more than someone who will always be there.
So in general social situations, if somebody asks you or offers you a drink, you always say, no, I don't drink.
Yep.
Okay. You never like lie about it, never beat around the bush, never.
No. In the early days I did. I made an excuse. I was driving because you kind of have to. But come that 3-month point, and it was around that Christmas, where someone who I really looked up to, he basically was like, got unbelievable body, works out all the time, one of the kind of fittest people I know. He turned to me and said, I couldn't do what you're doing. And I went, what do you mean? He went, I couldn't not drink. And I was like, hang on a minute, this is someone who I kind of hold on a pedestal and think is someone who is of worth, and he's telling me that he couldn't do what I'm doing. Straight away, that kind of gave me the self-confidence to be like, well, this is special then. I am someone that should be proud of this, I should talk about it more. So from that moment there, I was kind of like, this is something which I'm not going to shy away from. It needs to be something which is, you have to feel confident in yourself to say it. But since then, I've always been, no, I don't drink. This is why.
And you don't find that sometimes exhausting to kind of, not to have to explain yourself, but to kind of, to explain yourself, to kind of open up in those situations? Or do you find it more, I guess you find it more enriching?
I find it more enriching, definitely. It does change how, when you're in a group of people and you say it, it definitely changes people's tones towards you, and people are straight away curious. And then it actually then leads to a deeper conversation. And people, if you are, if everyone's pretty drunk and you're at a Christmas party, people do come over and tell you, I should try it, or blah, 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 and they do tell that. But that's very limited. Normally in social situations, people are more intrigued and ask why, and you get then to talk to them on a kind of deeper level.
So, what is your social life like in a general sense as a 20 something who does not drink? You mentioned going out to bars, going to pubs, clubs.
Right now, like everyone else is, I'm sitting in my house every day. But but normally it's quite active. So like last summer I went to Ibiza. Did Ibiza? I will go on nights out with friends. I will be in the office. I am a little bit because I live a little bit away from the office. I do tend to not be around that as much from a professional standpoint as well, because people don't want to be like around me drunk when they're working in work environments. So I don't tend to do too much. But Christmas party, I'll be the one on the table with a unicorn dancing to Mr. Brightside till 2 a.m. So if anything, I have the energy to do it. And when I want to do it and when I want to be in these situations, I will be there. I've got good friends. I'll get up early on Saturday mornings and go and play golf. So socializing for me has evolved. It's gone from meeting my friends to go and get drunk to, okay, my friends see what the importance of doing quality time. So we'll go gorge walking, we'll go camping, we'll play golf, we'll do barbecue. So again, the time I spend with people, the quality has increased.
I can't believe you went to Ibiza sober. That's you deserve a medal for that. Wow. Yeah, I wanted to kind of also shift the conversation back a little bit because again during this TED talk that where you told your story, you mentioned that time that you were talking about where on paper everything was great, right? You're having a lot of success in your profession. Obviously, things are going, trending up real fast, but inside you were deeply unsatisfied. That's something that I'm really fascinated by. That's something that I think we find a lot in kind of our Western society. People who are on paper very successful should be quote unquote happy, but are incredibly dissatisfied. Why do you think those feelings are so common to us in our society? And I guess how did alcohol play into all of this?
Yeah, I think they're common because there's a societal creation of what it means to be successful. And you look at Instagram, you look at people, there is kind of a status play. You have to have this, you have this, you have this. And reality is once you kind of get to them points and you see and you experience it and you can see around the corner what it looks like, you do feel the emptiness. So you spend a lot of time trying to find what makes you happy. And then when you come back to it, the things that make you happy are the simple things, friends, family, doing things you enjoy. It's all a superficial construction. And I think alcohol plays a part of it because when you go into a nightclub and you see someone over in the corner with a bottle of Grey Goose, you think, oh my God, they're having an amazing time. They're great. You don't, it's a much more of a perception of the image rather than the actual feelings. And when I was 18 and I was seeing people doing that, I was like, oh my God, them guys must be great. And then I got to the point where I was that person and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like it. So, I experienced it and it wasn't for me. It wasn't right for me. And I've also spoken to a lot of people who have also gone through that kind of same journey and realized it wasn't for them either. And they get much more gratification and satisfaction and happiness from spending time with their loved ones or going for a 5K run or completing a jigsaw. So it took a lot of time to learn that, but I'm thankful I learned it young.
You've also spoken to the power and impact of therapy on your life, seeking out help. But it's not something that, younger guys like us really like to talk about or really open to talking about. But you've talked about how that's been helpful to you. What is the stigma there in having these kind of discussions, especially amongst our kind of cohort?
Yeah, I think the first stigma for me when I kind of seek to speak to someone was that a therapist was some kind of guy from the TV series who's in a white suit who's going to put a needle in you. It was, the idea of mental asylums, mental health was always geared towards the kind of people who'd lost their marbles. I guess that's the kind of way. So I never knew that there was this kind of like probably more in the coaching area of mental health, where someone can help you get through problems and help you get through experiences. So I think the first part was the lack of information, lack of education for myself, which probably sits across the entire demographic, because we grow up in the media, we grow up with these kind of things being perceived in a certain way. And the second part was, as a guy, it's not right to talk about your feelings. There is that stereotype that if you're missing the night out or if you're missing situation, it's because you're weak, and you have the kind of male masculine playoff. So I definitely don't understand that one as much, because I fortunately was surrounded by people who were supportive. But I've seen it play out with people where they have to portray a certain perception to their friends and family, which eventually just gets draining, because they're continually acting. So I think between the lack of awareness of what a therapist can do and is, and between societal structures of the way a man should be viewed, them two reasons count for a lot of the issues around men not speaking up. And I think either one of them being deconstructed would have a hugely positive impact on men.
What advice would you give somebody out there who is in a position, they find themselves maybe, I guess, sober curious, as you can say that word, yeah, sober curious or interested in seeking out therapy? What would you say to them?
I think let's take both parts separately, because they're necessarily not linked. So if you look at the therapy aspect, what I'd always say to someone in my situation would be, if you want to go to the gym and get a better body, but you don't really know where to start, what do? Speak to a PT, someone who's an expert in that area, or a friend who is in a very good shape, and you ask them, what do you do? How do you do it? Obviously, it's a very physical and very visual area, so you can kind of see it. So the idea of asking someone how you do your mental health still works, but you don't really know who's in a good position. So then you're left with talking to a professional. There's an entire industry of people, therapists, who are specialists in helping you coach your mental health well-being. So it's the same as speaking to a PT about your body. You speak to a therapist about your health and your mental health. So that's the way I do it. I try and normalize it in a way that people understand it, and rationalize it to them to be like, oh, it's me trying to become a better version of myself. For the sober curious route, I'd probably say that think back to when you were 16, when we used to go to house parties and stuff. How long has it been since you had not drank during that period? And if the answer is less than 2 months, I will say to them, you've never experienced the advantages of not been drinking. And in 95% of the examples, when I speak to people, no one has gone longer than, I did dry January, or I did sober October. So no one has done 60 days. The majority of people have not done 60 days to actually see the advantages. And if someone has gone over 60 days, they'll say, yeah, I enjoyed it, I find it great, and now I moderate my alcohol. So I always say to people that you've never experienced the advantages of not drinking because you've never done it since you were 16. And if you were to look at that from a kind of the impact that has on your body, from the liver, the mental ability, the time you've lost, what's the harm in trying it? Because ultimately, if I told you there was a way that you could save money, become fitter, lose weight, and live a happier life, and all you have to do is not drinking, people then start to see it as something that could be valuable. And what I've kind of realized is that when I told people at 22 I would stopping drinking, they didn't believe me and they didn't know why I'd do it. But now I'm 27, when I tell 27-year-olds that I don't drink, they understand why. So it's such a, it take, that the 40-year period I've been on, people's relationships and understanding will change. Hangovers get worse. People don't enjoy it as much as they can. So they understand now why I don't do it. And I always say in those situations, just try it, because you don't lose anything from trying it. You save money.
Have you had anybody around, like in your circle, who has gone sober in part because of the example that you've set?
Yeah, a lot of people have definitely changed their relationships. I wouldn't say there's anyone in my circle that's gone over a necessarily very unhealthy relationship with alcohol, but they've definitely been a lot more conscious of it. There's people close to me at work who have done it, who said I needed to do it, who did it. But I think more than anything, it makes people aware. And I've had people who reach out to me being like, I think I've got a problem. What should I do? So there's definitely people it's had a positive impact on. If anything, it's just made people much more conscious to think about it, which is kind of a success because not everyone will have a problem with alcohol. Not everyone will have an unhealthy relationship. Some people will be able to enjoy it, use it, and still live a great life. So I'm no way advocating complete abstinence in the world. What I'm saying is it's a very addictive drug. It's a depressant. There's people who will respond badly to it. And if you are one of those people, make sure you're doing what you can to be aware of it. And if you need to make a change, make a change. But there's no harm in moderate consumption if you enjoy a glass of wine, a glass of champagne. If you've got a healthy relationship, keep it up.